Can you explain to me why they got this far down the road without actually convincing the guy they needed to convince to change his mind? The Astros were told no by Nolan Arenado, and it was met with resounding relief and pretty much thank you, Nolan Arenado, for not wanting to play here. The declining nature of his stats played a part. The Jose Abreu PTSD is playing a part as well. But beyond not adding a player who could help or maybe even hurt your roster, I'm interested in how this broke down, because how do baseball trades work, or attempted ones work, where the guy has a no trade clause, you do all this work to come to an agreement on the deal, and then there's that final step of, actually convincing the player to want to play for you. So how did this go? Did the Astros work with the thought that at some point they'd be able to convince Nolan Arenado? Because that seems backwards. That seems like you actually reach out to the player first. At least I would do this. Reach out to the player first, see if he wants to play here. And if he doesn't, then don't waste your time making a deal. Like, who's the most likely person on the Astros, or at least in their front office, to convince Nolan Arenado to play, to waive his no trade? We know the Verlander thing, the first trade, was something that they needed to convince him to leave Detroit, and Jim Crane got involved and others, and eventually he acquiesced at the last moment and became an Astro, and the rest is history. Did Craig Biggio call Nolan Arenado? Did Jeff Bagwell? Who got on the phone, or did it never get to that point because the agent was like, nah, not going to happen? It feels like a giant waste of time that everyone's happy didn't come to fruition. I need logistical answers. Like the McTaggart breakdown, the national breakdown of Arenado saying no. I don't care about that. Explain to me how you can get so far down the rabbit hole of making a trade happen and then realize, oh, yeah, the most important aspect of it, the guy doesn't want to play here. How does that work? Baseball's weird. Like in basketball, if a player has a no trade, we find out Bradley Beal has waived his no trade for these teams. We found that out with Nolan Arenado, but with Bradley Beal, when he put teams on his list, the other teams who weren't on his list didn't get through the process of trying to make a deal. So why are the Astros involved in a deal for a guy who had no intention of playing for you? Sean, you're a bigger baseball guy than me. Can you explain to me why they got this far down the road without actually convincing the guy they needed to convince to change his mind?
I get that you do some of the work on the front. Like, you can't just, hey, was Nolan Arenado? Think, okay, never mind. But this was described as, the deal was on the 1 yard line. I'd say once you hit the red zone, you should probably...
At some point.
You should probably just, by the way, is this all for nothing? Unless they're just trying to get, billable hours. Are they hourly? Maybe...
The negotiators hourly.
Yeah.
I hope they're on salary.
Maybe or one of the interns, Dana Brown's like, hey, listen, Christmas is coming up. I'll get you some hours. Just crunch all these numbers for me. Take as much time as you need, and boom, $8 an hour. You're good. Because I imagine they pay guys $8 an hour.
Yeah, of course. Did they spend the better part of 3 weeks, a month, trying to work this thing out without actually how long did this take to them to get to the 1 yard line and then come up short, get stopped on 4th and goal? Actually, you know what? It's not even a stop on 4th and goal. They're Jonathan Taylor. They fumbled the ball right before they crossed the goal line, because the most important thing is to get across the goal line with the football. The most important thing is to get the player to say he wants to play here.
Yeah, I from what it sounds like is that this negotiations really kind of picked up steam, or were, maybe even started it during the winter meetings between Dana Brown and the Cardinals GM. So I can see that, where it just starts as conversations. Would this work? Would that work? Yada, yada, yada. But for it to get so far down the line, and maybe some of this is just the reporting of it, of there actually isn't a 1 yard line for negotiating deals.
It's either done or not done.
Maybe they just got to a point where they felt good about, this is how much money we're comfortable, for the Cardinals. This is how much money we're comfortable, eating or how much cash we're willing to send with Arenado, because that's probably going to be the biggest part of any Arenado deal is how much of his not cap number, but how much of his salary is St. Louis willing to pay, and a lot of that has really nothing to do with Nolan Arenado, and I wonder if it was more of a Cardinals negotiation tactic with the teams that Nolan Arenado wants to go to, where they said, "Hey, listen, we were basically accepting a trade from the Astros where we were going to take X amount of money. That's all the money we're going to take." So maybe it's more of a Cardinals using the Astros as like a negotiating tool here, but also like Dana Brown, can you have some better things to do than to basically be doing a hypothetical trade? Because basically what he did is what we did the day Jimmy Butler list of preferred destinations came out and the Rockets were on it, where we just were on the trade machine. That's kind of what it felt like Dana Brown was doing in real life, was just kind of tinkering around the trade machine, trying to get the Cardinals to accept. And then, oh yeah, by the way, this won't happen. So nice talking to John Mozeliak or whatever the Cardinals GM's name is.
That's where we stand. They tried to make a move to address some issues, and the guy and the main component of it said, actually, I'd rather not play there. Now, Katie Woo said that a decision isn't final, and the Cardinals and Astros will continue conversations.
Oh
but
my God.
that comes from that comes from The Athletic. But if you look at what MLB.com has out there, Brian McTaggart, among others, reporting they're not actually close to a deal, and the Astros aren't optimistic that they'll get Nolan Arenado to change his mind.
Not optimistic.
Not optimistic. So we've heard Dana Brown be optimistic about a lot of things. Guys coming back from injury, getting a deal done with certain players.
Yeah.
This one, not optimistic, which if we go by Dana Brown's recent history, would suggest that Arenado's an Astro by Friday.
It is interesting that the Cardinals side of it, like the Cardinals beat reporter is saying how close the deal was, and Brian McTaggart's like, the deal wasn't that close.
No, not that close.
So I do wonder if it is like a Cardinals like leak job of
try to get someone else motivated
job. But like a Cardinals floating it out there, trying to make the market seem hotter than it is.
Yeah. So were the Astros being used? If we're going by what feels like the Astros side of the equation, they're saying a deal wasn't imminent. They were talking, but they weren't anywhere near getting that job done. And maybe that's just based on the fact that the main component of it was not going to happen, getting the player to want to come here. So he says, no, it's not the end of the world. As I started the show with, after the Superman stuff, a lot of people didn't want that to happen. They didn't want Arenado here. They didn't want an older player here. And it gives people some hope, right or wrong, if you're talking about logically, that now that Arenado appears to be off the table, the Astros can place more of their focus on bringing back Alex Bregman, because the Astro people online are telling us, according to people they know, that they're still in it. And this is one of those things where you need context from the people in their engagement farming. What do you mean still in it? Does still in it mean the Astros have a number, and if Bregman never gets close to that number anywhere else, they're certainly willing to give it to him? Or are they actively negotiating and trying to meet Bregman's number? Because still in it can simply mean he's still available. They have an offer out there. He hasn't taken another one. So technically, he could always take theirs. He could always take it.
Yeah. No one else has like knocked him over with an offer. So they're all in the same ballpark. Like, yeah, that is effectively meaningless to me.
To me as well.
Also, like, so they were varying degrees of close to trading for a third baseman, and you mean to tell me that okay, you know what? Never mind. Now we're gonna re-sign Alex Bregman. Like, never mind. Okay, that didn't
work out for us, but we'll go right.
We'll spend the extra $10 million a year for 4 more years to sign this guy.
Yeah, we appeared to do anything in our power not to give the guy the deal he wanted, and we're certainly serious about finding another option. In fact, we've already traded for someone who could play third base.
Yeah, I was going to say that. We already traded for a guy who is at least theoretically a third baseman. He couldn't play first. But, yeah, it's a very funny, like, okay, now back to plan A.
Yes.
Like, all right, dude.
Okay. All right, guys. We'll see. So that's where we stand.
I do have a question about the Arenado part of it.
For the Astros or just for this show?
For the Astros.
What's your question for the
Or
Astros?
for, I guess, Astros fans and Astros. Astros fans celebrating the fact that a guy exercises no trade clause to block a trade to his team, to their team is very funny. It also is interesting because Nolan Arenado, it's been framed as he wants to play for a contender. Okay, sure. But then shouldn't that be bad that he looked at the Astros and were like, not a contender?
Hey, don't
no
say,
thanks.
Don't say the quiet part out loud.
But then I was curious because I remember he did have a list out there.
He did. Was his list full of contenders or teams that were obviously better than the Astros? I don't think it was. Was it?
Dodgers, Padres, Angels, and he's from Southern California.
So the Angel thing,
yeah, but I think
would
it's
make some sense.
I think it's a I'm from Southern California thing. So because it's in addition to having the Dodgers, Padres, Angels on his wish list, Arenado is also willing to accept a trade to the Phillies, Mets, or Red Sox.
All teams who you would say, now the Red Sox have some work to do, but you would say are willing to be really, really competitive this year, are trying to be really, really competitive. The Angels is the one which one of these things is not like the other. Of course, we've talked about the Southern California thing. So the Astros, he doesn't consider the Astros amongst those teams?
I think it's just he doesn't want to play for the Astros.
I think that's true.
I think his bar for what a contender is
can vary.
Yeah, I mean, the Red Sox are like below 500.
Yeah, they weren't good.
The Mets were varying degrees of sorry throughout the year,
and
then got hot, and they signed one.
Yeah, they're making moves to be better.
So. Is that a no? Because he's getting his money either way. It's just how much. I was gonna say, is that a hey? These guys are gonna pay me like crazy.
He's under contract.
Give me to the Mets.
It'll just be multiple teams handling the bulk of his deal. No matter who trades for him, that team is going to get help from the Cardinals to make that deal work. The Astros certainly are going to get that if they could have convinced Arenado. So I don't know if the contender stuff flies. Like you said, it could just be I have no interest in playing for any. Maybe not the city doesn't bother him so much, but the team itself, he doesn't want to play for the Astros. And we could guess what that might be about. But no matter what, right now, Arenado doesn't want to be here. The Astros wanted him here, and they have to adjust.
Or it's like, I'd prefer to play for these 6 teams, and I would rather just play out I would rather have them, like, actually turn me down or actually have a third base option. Because the Mets and Red Sox are 2 teams that are rumored to be in it for Alex Bregman as well. So if obviously they can't both sign Alex Bregman, but if one of them signs Alex Bregman, another one trades for a different third base. Like if the third base spots start filling up, is he really going to be like, nope, still no to the Astros. I'd rather be on this sorry Cardinals team.
Well, the Cardinals part of it is they want to make a trade.
Yes, they want him out.
They want him out. So I don't think he's going to end up a Cardinal no matter what. Now, with that trade clause, with that no trade clause, he could keep them from sending him to Siberia, baseball Siberia.
The Angels? Well, actually, he would be like, bring on Siberia.
Yeah, he'd welcome Siberia.
I grew up around Siberia.
Because it'd be closer to home. So he does have the ability to protect themselves from the Cardinals just dumping him someplace. But it came back to bite the Astros, at least the organization. The fans aren't bothered by it, but the team itself wanted him in a uniform.
Are the Dodgers going to trade for this?
You just throw the Dodgers on the list because they'll pay anyone. Let's say, who knows what they'll do?
That's why I think the Dodgers and Mets are on there because it's like they have a lot of money. So it's not like they'll turn me down on its face by how much money I make. Like he's not going to put like the Rays on there, where it's like the Rays are just as good as most of these teams on the list. He's just like they will not pay me. So
he doesn't want to
why
play
waste my time?
70-something games in a minor league stadium in 2025. Maybe
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
that's bad, but. Yeah, and also the Padres have Manny Machado. Like, why would they trade for you, dude?
I don't know. No, maybe he doesn't mind being a backup someplace. I don't know what his deal is. He just one of the teams.
It's just a funny list, and then to go like, I want to play for a contender. Also, the Angels.
Contenders. Some contenders who don't really have a spot for me. Some contenders who are in on a big
Different
money
guy.
third baseman.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Just keep me out of Houston, and we'll go from there.
Keep me out of St. Louis and keep me out of Houston.
Yeah, yes, those are the two no-goes for Nolan Arenado so far. So we'll see.